Welcome to Keeping Up with Cannabis. Today I wanted to go over probably my biggest issue I have currently with dispensaries, and something I hope will eventually become an industry standard, and that all surrounds cannabis products' shelf life, the storage of those products, and the brand reputation that follows those issues. So let's get started. Brands that actually produce the cannabis products, whether it's flower, extracts, edible, etc., their names are generally on the line, more so than the dispensaries. And properly storing those products can actually make a huge amount of difference. So beer manufacturers actually face a very similar issue with keeping their product, fresh, as high quality as possible when it hits the shelves and when it stays on the shelves. You want that shelf life to be as long as possible without it actually degrading. So both beer and cannabis degrade through things like UV light, oxygen, bacteria, and so properly storing the product can really help those issues and the longevity of the shelf life, which is one of the reasons you'll see those big long refrigerators in gas stations and supermarkets that hold the beer. It's not just so you can have a nice fresh, cold, refreshing Rocky Mountain beer. It's also because that type of storage, not only either a dark bottle or a closed can that has no light that gets through, but having that cold environment and having, the sealed everything so no oxygen gets in, the cold environment will help slow down the life cycle of those microorganisms that will cause the decay from microbial action. Months and months of effort went into producing those cannabis and beer products, but I'm going to focus more on cannabis. Tons of time and effort and money went into producing those products. Brands go above and beyond to make sure that from the moment of harvest or the moment that production batch is done, it is properly stored all the way till it gets to the retail shop. So that means a lot of companies now are getting refrigeration or freezer trucks to transport their stuff to the shelves to make sure that it is as top-notch as possible. So all that effort that they put in to get their product on the shelves as top-notch as possible, to then have it just sit on the shelves in potentially bright lights, warmer than ideal environment. It's going to be sitting in this less than ideal environment, slowly degrading. It's going to be converting cannabinoids and terpenes from desired ones to far less desired ones. Properly storing cannabis can literally add years onto the shelf life. I don't mean that dispensaries can now, if they get a fridge or a freezer, that they can start pushing back those sell-by dates by years, but I think they should keep their same sell-by dates, but it does mean if you have a product, if you go buy an extract or some flour or whatever, you can take it home, put it in your fridge or freezer, and it'll last a lot longer. I've had extracts for several years now that are still fine. They haven't degraded to an extreme degree where I can't even use the product. Properly storing cannabis will really prevent or greatly prolong things like the evaporation and conversion of terpenes, the conversion of THC to CBN, the drying out of product. That's probably the biggest issue, I would say, is, a lot of flower and extract products, if they're just sitting on the shelf, they're not stored in any real effective way. Several months after that harvest or production date, those things are going to start to get real dried out and start to change a lot. And I don't think that's really fair on consumers. So if you got the brands putting in all that effort, and then the dispensaries come in, buy the product at wholesale, which you would be surprised at how cheap wholesale can really go, and then they will raise the prices, generally on the low end 2 times to 7 times the price for retail shops. Now you're gonna have all those brands put in all that effort, and then you're gonna raise the price that much and not even store their product properly. Yet when we go back to the beer thing, beer manufacturers and stores have already worked out something where to have beer in refrigerators is helpful for everybody involved. It's a win-win-win for the consumer, the manufacturer, and the store. Yet beer is worth considerably less than cannabis products, especially if you're comparing just what can fit in a refrigerator. So if you got just one refrigerator door at a supermarket, how much beer can fill that up? It's worth whatever, a couple $100. If you were to fill that same amount of space up with cannabis products, you're talking hundreds of thousands of dollars. Yet dispensaries can't swing, the money in the space to get some proper storage. I don't think that's right. Thankfully, I have been coming across more dispensaries that are employing proper storage, but it's not the industry standard, and I really think it needs to be, and I hope it will be, and I hope that these new states that just enacted either medical or recreational cannabis in 2020/2021 will really take note, because the brands that are keeping you stocked with quality products and bringing you it as top-notch as possible, they deserve it, and your customers that are keeping you open also deserve that proper storage. Being handed an extract as a consumer, being handed an extract that's cold to the touch is very reassuring to me, knowing it came from better storage than just out in the open. And subsequently that means that not only will it be higher quality, but it will also be closer to the intention of the producer. So, cannabis, flower companies, extract companies, they take a lot of time and effort to do things like curing, which is to get the flavor and taste and effects exactly where they want it to be, which is done, through potentially a very long process, months of potential curing. That when they ship that off to the retail spots, that is the intention they had. Is when it left them, that's how they wanted it to smell, taste, and have the effect. But once it gets to the dispensary, if they don't have any control over it and the dispensary just leaves it out, the further away from that harvest or production date, the further away it's going to be from the producer's intent and what they thought they were actually giving to the masses.